Today, we are going to be talking about what is called the percent proportion. Now, I'm going to tell you, when I was in school and I was your age, I learned about these things called percent problems. And there were 3 different types of percent problems. Matter of fact, let me show you them. Here are 3 different types of percent problems. They're simple, I understand that. They're designed so you know the answers, but you can see the different types. There's the first type. What is 50% of 80? There is the second type. What is 40 is 50% of what number? And there is the third type. 40 is what percent of 80? Now, I don't want the answers right now, because the answer is not what's important. It's how we are going to do these problems that is important. But when I was in school, I learned these 3 types of questions. And I learned a method for each of these questions. So on a homework assignment, I had to think about, what question am I given? What method do I have to use? And it took a while, and if I confused methods, I got the wrong answer. Never really cared for that. Always drove me a little crazy. But years later, when I was studying to be a teacher, I actually watched a teacher who went up onto this in front of her class, and she said exactly what I'm saying to you. And these are the exact problems she put on the board. And she said, I'm going to give you 3 problems. And there's 3 ways you can do each one of these problems. Or I can show you one method to do all 3 of those problems. And all you have to know is one simple phrase and 3, the phrase plus the 3 questions. One simple phrase, 3 questions. And that's all you have to remember, and you could do any type of percent question that I give you. And the phrase went like this. And some of you might actually have heard this phrase before. And the phrase goes like this. Is over of equals n over 100. Is over of equals n over 100. Say it with me. Is over of equals n over 100. Say it again. Is over of equals n over 100. Again. Good. Now, the first thing you notice is, what is that? It's a proportion. Do we know how to solve proportions? Yeah. We know how to solve a proportion. That should be simple. What else do you notice about that proportion? Does anything else that we may have studied before jump out at you?
N over 100.
What is n over 100? It's a percent. So right away, when I look at this proportion, I know I'm dealing with percentages because there's the n over 100 that I have there. The is over of is related to that. It's a ratio that's the same. It's the part to the whole that the n over 100 represents. So, the thing is though, is, of, and n, those are all unknowns. Hopefully, I can fill in at least 2 of them. And that will help me set up my proportion. And that's where the 3 questions come in. Let's talk about those 3 questions. Question number 1 is related to the n. Question number 1 says, is there a, cancel. Is there a percent given? Is there a percent given? When you look at the problem, if a percent is given, you're going to write it where there's an N. What if there's no percent given? What are you going to do?
Leave it as N.
You could leave it as N, or what I like to do, to kind of say, there was no percent there,
Put an X.
I put an X. Question number 2 goes to of. And this question says, is there a number directly after the word of? So when I look at my question, I'm going to try to find in the question the word of. And if I find the word of, if there is a number right after it, I'm going to put that number in the of spot. What if there's no number after the word of?
An X.
Put an X there. Okay. Question 3. Nah, it wasn't working the way I wanted it to. Question 3. The third and final question simply says, are there any numbers left? If you look at the problem, if there is a number you haven't used yet, put it in the is spot. But if there isn't, put a X there. So I have one phrase, is over of equals n over 100. I have 3 questions. Is there a percent given? Is there a number directly after the word of? Are there any numbers left?
What if there's no numbers for is and n?
If you have a case where 2 numbers are missing, you can't do the problem. And that's not going to happen. Let me show you what I mean. Let's come back to our... Let's come back to our 3 questions. And let's solve these 3 questions using is over of equals n over 100. Knowing we know the answers already. Let's look at the first question. What is 50% of 80? When I start to do a question, I immediately set up my proportion and I put the only number that's in the proportion down, which is 100. Now, start my questions. Is there a percent given? Yes. Question number 1. Is there a percent given?
Yes.
What is it?
50.
It's 50%. I'll take that 50% and I'll put it over 100. Question number 2. Is there a number directly after the word of?
Yes.
Here's the word of. There is a number directly after it. So where do I put that?
In the of place.
In the of spot, which is where?
The numerator. Of the denominator.
It's the denominator, the first fraction. Then we go to the last question. Are there any numbers left? No. Nope, there's no numbers left. I used the 50, I used the 80. I'll put an X there. Now, what I have to do is I want to solve this. How do I solve the proportion? Cross multiply. Take X times 100. What's X times 100?
100x.
Okay, that's 100x. Equals 80 times 50. What's 80 times 50? 4,000. Now, what do I do?
Divide both sides by 100.
Divide both sides by 100. Good. Divide both sides. The hundreds cancel out there. In this, I can cancel out the ending zeros, which means x equals what? 40. Is that what you expected to get?
Yes.
That's what I expected to get, so x equals 40. Why don't you try the next one? I'm going to pause the recording so you can try 40 is 50% of what number? Let's take a look at how we would do this now. And let's see if you got it correct. Set up my proportion, put the 100 down. What's the first question I should ask myself? Is there a percent given? Is there?
Yes.
Okay, what's the percent?
50%.
50%, so I put the 50 over 100. What's the second question I ask myself? Is there a number directly after of? Is there?
No.
Here's the word of, and what comes after of is what? That doesn't mean a number. So what do I put in the of spot?
X.
X. Are there any numbers left?
Yeah. Yes.
What is it?
40.
40. So I put that in the is spot. Now, what do I do? Cross multiply. Okay. So x times 50 is
50x.
50x. 40 times 100 is
4,000.
4,000. Now what?
Divide both sides by 5.
Good. Divide both sides by 50. The zeros there cancel, and 400 divided by 5 tells me
80.
x equals 80. And that's exactly what we thought the answer would be.
Yeah.
Let's look at the last one, and let's do the last one together. I set up my proportion. Question 1. Is there a percent given?
No.
No. What percent? I'll put an X there. Is there a number directly after of?
Yes.
Of 80. So it's 80. Are there any numbers left?
Yes.
40. So now can I cross multiply?
Yeah.
Yes, I can. What's 80 times x?
80x.
80x equals 4,000. Now what?
Divide both sides by 80.
Divide both sides by 80.
Zeros cross out.
Zeros cancel. 400 divided by 8 is?
50%.
Do I just write 50 or do I write 50%?
50%.
This time I write the percent sign because I was looking for 50%. Okay. Give you a question to try now and see how you do with it. What is 40% of 120? Try this one on your own. All right, here we go. Let's see how we would do this. I make my proportion. Put 100. Okay. Is there a percent given?
Yes.
Yes. 40%. I put the 40 over 100. Is there a number after of?
Yes.
Yes. Are there any numbers left? No. Okay. Cross multiply. 100 times x?
100x.
100x equals, what is 120 times 40?
4,800.
4,800. Now what do I do?
Divide both sides by 100.
Divide both sides by 100. So those cancel. I get x equals, the zeros cancel, and 48 over 1 is just 48. How many people got 48? Good. Okay. Let me give you another one to try. Why don't you try this one? 18 is, oops, nope, not like that. 18 is 25% of what number? Try that one. If you did it correctly, what does your full proportion look like? Who could tell me what the proportion they used?
18 over x equals 25 over 100.
That would be perfect. Because 100 is there, a percent is 25. There is no number after of, and the only number left is 18. So absolutely correct. 18 over x equals 25 over 100. To cross multiply, what do we get when we cross multiply?
You get 25x equals 1800.
25x equals 1,800. Now what?
Divide both sides by 25.
Good. Divide both sides by 25. And x equals, well, hold on, let's actually do this one. Let's work this one out. I'm going to take 1,800 and divide it by 25. Does 25 go into 1?
No.
Does it go into 18? No. Does it go into 180?
Yeah.
How many times?
7.
7. And 7 times 25 is 175. When I subtract, I'm left with 5. Bring down the 0. 2. And x equals 72.